Hello, dear listener. Welcome back, and thank you for joining me tonight. This is a gentle, relaxing story meant to help you release the day, quiet your mind, and drift into peace. So find a comfortable place, close your eyes if you wish, and let me tell you the story of the Forest of Whispers. There was once an ancient forest stretching for miles beyond the mountains. The villagers nearby spoke of it in hushed voices, not with fear, but with reverence. They called it the Forest of Whispers, for those who walked under its canopy often said they heard soft voices, like the murmur of distant friends, or the echo of words spoken long ago. An old traveler named Corin had heard these stories all his life. His hair was silver, his cloak weathered, his boots worn from 100 roads. Yet he had never entered the forest, not until the day his journey brought him to its edge. The sun was dipping low when he stepped beneath the first tall pines. At once he felt the hush, the kind of silence that was not empty, but full, like a quiet hall where music had just faded. The wind moved gently, carrying with it what seemed like voices, faint, melodic, weaving through the branches. Corin paused, listening. He had wandered many lands, but never had he felt such calm. He set his pack down beside an old oak and closed his eyes. The whispers surrounded him, soft as a lullaby, as though the forest itself were speaking. The next morning, Corin awoke to find a child standing nearby. She was small, with dark hair and bright eyes, carrying a basket of herbs. "Good morning," she said. "You slept in the forest. Did you hear them?" "The whispers?" Corin asked. She nodded. "They say the trees remember every voice. When someone speaks with love or sorrow or hope, the forest keeps it, and at night it lets those voices drift again." Corin smiled gently. "And what is your name?" "Leora," she said. "I come here often. My grandmother says the forest heals the heart." From that day on, Corin and Leora met beneath the trees. She showed him the hidden glades where flowers glowed at dusk, and the clear streams that ran like silver threads. Together they listened to the whispers. Sometimes they were like songs, sometimes like laughter, sometimes like weeping, but always soft, always kind. Weeks passed, and Corin grew to love the forest as if it were an old friend. Yet he noticed something. In certain places, the whispers grew fainter, as if the trees were struggling to remember. The leaves there looked pale, the bark cracked. One evening he asked Leora, "Do you hear how quiet it has grown here?" She nodded sadly. "The villagers take too much wood. They forget the forest gives more than it takes. If the trees fall, the voices fade." Corin placed his hand on the bark of a weary tree. It felt warm, pulsing, alive. He whispered softly, "I will not let your voices vanish." The tree seemed to sigh, and a faint murmur drifted from its branches, like gratitude. One night, dark clouds rolled across the mountains. The wind rose, shrieking through the trees, and lightning split the sky. Rain poured, and the forest groaned. Corin and Leora sheltered beneath a great cedar, watching as branches cracked and streams swelled. The whispers grew frantic, rushing, tumbling, like 1,000 voices calling at once. The storm threatened to drown them out, to scatter them forever. Corin and Leora worked through the night. They built small stone channels to guide the water away from the weakest roots. They covered saplings with branches to shield them. They sang softly to the trees, their voices joining the chorus. At last the storm passed, and dawn brought stillness. The forest was scarred, but alive, and in that morning hush the whispers returned, soft, steady, resilient. Years flowed like streams. Corin grew older still, his steps slower, his breath shorter. Yet every day he returned to the forest with Leora, listening, caring, remembering. One spring morning, as blossoms fell like snow, Corin said, "I will not always be here, child. But you will. You must keep listening. You must keep the voices alive." Leora's eyes shone. "I will keep them, always." And so when Corin's last day came, he sat beneath the great cedar and closed his eyes. The whispers surrounded him, carrying his voice among them. His breath faded like the tide, and the forest held him gently, as it had held so many before. From then on, Leora was the keeper of the whispers. She grew into wisdom, guiding villagers to treat the forest with respect. At night, she walked beneath the branches and heard not only the voices of strangers, but the calm, steady tone of her old friend. And still the forest stands, its canopy deep and green. Travelers say that if you walk there at dusk, you will hear soft voices in the wind. Some swear they hear the laughter of a child, others the wisdom of an old man. But all agree on one thing: the whispers never fade. Thank you for listening to the Forest of Whispers. May its calm guide you tonight. May its voices bring you comfort. And may your dreams be as gentle as the leaves in the wind. Good night.